Hello, everyone. It's another Wednesday with your fertility specialist. I'm your host, Ruth Ogogo, and I'm excited to be with you all this afternoon. On behalf of Alps Hospitals, we love to say a very big thank you to our dear viewers. Thank you for liking our post. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for always staying glued to your screen. And thank you for always staying tuned. Yes, so today it's plastic and fertility. I'm wondering what the connection is with plastic and fertility, but I guess we'll figure that out in the course of this live session today. And yes, guess who we have to give us great insight into this, to tell us everything we need to know about plastic and fertility. We have Dr. Kenneth Iguda. It's good to have you with us, Dr. Ken.
Mhm.
Once again, yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm glad to be
We missed
here.
you on this platform,
Oh yeah, once
so
in a while.
it's good to have you back.
Thanks so much.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure our viewers are also saying welcome. So, for someone watching for the first time, a little about Dr. Ken. Dr. Ken is a consultant gynecologist. He's a minimal access surgeon. He's a fertility specialist and IVF specialist. He's also the first person that brought laser hysteroscopy to Nigeria, like the first West African to have brought that procedure to Nigeria. So you can imagine the kind of person we have with us right now. Hey, we have a
Not supposed to be
star.
bluffing.
Oh yeah. Oh, you could do more. Oh yes. So today he's going to tell us a lot about plastic. Like my ears are itching. I can't wait to start hearing all he has to tell us about plastic and fertility. So right now, call up someone. Like I would always say, if you need to send data to someone, send a link to someone, just do anything you can to make sure a lot of people benefit from this, whether you have children or not. You are a beneficiary of this topic. Whether you intend to get married or not, you're still a beneficiary. There's just a lot about plastic and fertility. Feel free to drop your thoughts, your comments, your questions in the comment section, and we'll definitely attend to them appropriately. So, Dr. Ken, plastic and
Yeah,
fertility.
plastics. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So now I'm sure everybody knows what plastic is. So I guess they would just want to get to the point of let's go straight to the point thing. Okay. Maybe you should tell us a bit of what these plastics could actually contain that seem to be detrimental to us, or things that are in plastic that could interfere with our life or our fertility as a whole before we talk about the impact.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruth, and I'm glad to be on this platform. Yes, the word plastic,
Hmm.
it's not new. It's more common than the household name.
Hmm.
Because every household has not just one, but loads of plastics. Everywhere in the house you
Hmm.
have plastics. And everywhere in the society you have plastics. It's so bad that you have plastics in water bodies.
Hmm.
You have
Wow.
plastics on the streets, I
Hmm.
mean, thrown to the streets by some
Yeah.
carefree or careless and uncivilized people,
Hmm.
you know in the form of polythene, in the form of buckets, in the form of containers,
Hmm.
or even gadgets.
Hmm.
you know Cars, as a matter of fact, has lots of plastics
Plastic.
in it.
Wow.
The airplanes have plastics in them and
Hmm.
all of that. But how safe are the plastics, and when do they become um, inimical to the human bodies?
Body.
Now, plastic revolution hit the world from the days of industrialization. And for us in Africa, looking at the 1990s,
Okay.
then you have massive production of plastics. You have water bottles made of plastics.
Yeah.
You have plates, I mean, for eating, made of plastics. You have
Okay.
cups made of plastic or materials. You have shoes made of plastics. A lot of things just made of
Made of
plastics.
plastic.
And
Exactly.
now the plastics, as you said, contains a lot of things that affects the humans. And some chemicals in the plastics that are elaborated into the human bodies. The two
Wow.
major chemicals. There are a lot of chemicals. By the way, I'm not a specialist in plastics. I would have been a specialist in chemical engineering or material engineering. Those guys are those who have plastics. So they know much more about the chemicals and plastics. In plastics,
Plastic.
we
Yeah.
just know the content in the plastics that affect our work, reproduction, as it were, or
Yeah.
the human health. And in this case, we're talking about the bisphenol,
Okay.
and the talate.
Okay.
There are other ones. Then you have the microplastics, the nanoplastics, and
Wow.
all of these are chippings, from a whole bulk of plastics. You have a big ball of plastics broken into several units, micro units,
Yeah.
consumed into the human body from different fronts, some from water animals, because you see a lot of a lot of seafood, the fish and all those things eat
Yeah.
plastics that are deposited into the water bodies,
Wow.
and then we consume this. And now in Africa, for instance, you cook with plastics. I mean, you serve dishes in plastic wares. We're not just in Africa, everywhere in the world, actually. You serve dishes in plasticware. And when they are heated to certain level, they elaborate some of those harmful chemicals, the phenols, the phthalates,
Wow.
and all the nanoplastic, microplastics. You don't even know you're consuming them. You don't know you're consuming the plastics.
Wow.
And now some plastics are incinerated, are burnt on the streets or in garbage cans and all of that.
Yeah.
And they elaborate harmful plastic chemicals into the air.
Yeah.
And then we inhale them.
Hmm.
Yes, a lot of the plastics are inhaled. And
True.
then kids inhale more of the plastics than
Wow.
adults. The reason why it is so, I don't know. Kids inhale more of the plastics than adults.
Wow.
Then you have the plastic wares you use in the microwave and all of that. They're all chipped in different sizes and quantities that may be so microscopic that you don't see with your basic eyes. But then you keep accumulating these plastics. In fact, there are a lot of studies
Wow.
that shows the quantity of plastics that we inhale or that we consume per day. Yes, a lot of studies. Just go online, search, you see a whole lot of studies, standard studies, not just minor studies, telling us of the plastic consumptions that we have. So
Wow.
yes, these plastics are everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere, and then they cause a lot of havoc to us. They cause a lot of havoc. But
Wow.
because it doesn't look like somebody carrying a gun and going onto the streets and
Yeah.
shooting down people and killing
Yes.
and taking lives, we don't consider it very important. But it is so
True.
serious that it's as grave as shooting people
Wow.
with guns. Because daily, we all, including me, we all consume these plastics and they affect
Wow.
us in several ways.
I was just thinking when you said the with findings, kids
Yeah,
inhale
inhale
more.
a lot of
So
plastics.
in a way, I'm just this is me just thinking.
Mm,
So sometimes when an adult perceives something that they are not comfortable with, in
mm.
a way they're able to shield themselves from what they're perceiving. Maybe you try to shield yourself or cover your nose, and then you
Uh-huh,
reduce
uh-huh,
probably what
uh-huh.
you're inhaling.
That's
What if
true.
it's a kid?
It
They
just
may
walks
randomly
through.
exactly
Exactly.
because there's no resistance per
Exactly.
se.
Nobody tells him, nobody
Yeah.
gives him a face mask to use,
And all of
and
that.
all of these things get
True.
filtered into the
Mm.
human's lungs,
Yeah.
eventually into the bloodstream, and all of that. We'll talk a little details about this, but
Wow.
this is really very dangerous.
Hmm.
You know, it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see big vessels on the sea or
Yeah.
on the ocean filtering the water and selecting the plastic
Plastics.
wares and
Hmm.
packing them off, and you'll be wondering why
Why
they're
they are
spending
doing
so
this?
much
Hmm.
energy,
True.
money, and resources in clearing
Hmm.
this. You know,
Wow.
it's so important that in some European societies or
Yeah.
in some Asian countries, for instance,
Yeah.
if you request to buy plastics, either plastic bags to carry your items,
Yeah.
you are charged extra. This is
Wow.
just to discourage you from
From
buying
getting
plastics,
it. Wow.
or you give you a paper
Hmm.
bag to use. And then if you see, there has been actually, because of awareness
Yeah.
on the damage plastic causes to humans. We're going to talk about reproduction in a bit. The damage
Yeah.
it causes to humans. A lot of eateries these days, restaurant, fast food joints serve
Yes.
their dishes in paper plates,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
then you see a lot of cups, paper cups instead of
Oh.
plastic cups,
Hmm.
because yes, there is increased awareness of
Of
what
the
damages
impact of
plastics can
plastics.
cause,
Wow.
and the world is taking steps towards protecting humans
Hmm.
from the damages that plastics are. Wristwatches are made of plastics.
Hmm.
A lot of plastic materials on the wristwatches. Quite a
A
lot of
number of
things
things.
just made of
Yes. Like
plastics
plastic basically is just like all over us. Like
all over us.
it's
And
just
it
a lot.
wasn't that way previously.
Honestly.
Yeah, it wasn't
Wow.
that way previously. So just plastics everywhere.
Everywhere.
Just last 2 years there was
Yeah.
a big documentary about plastics and the human health by BBC, that's British Broadcasting Corporation.
Hmm.
You could go search on their website and see it. I call my kids to
Hmm.
listen. They were all small, but they understood what plastic meant,
Meant.
and then their life and their choices were affected by that
Hmm.
documentary. So they're running away from plastic to a large extent. They don't even use plastic materials if it's within their control
To
to I mean, either for drinking or for eating, because that's where the problems really,
starts
really
coming
are.
from.
You know.
Okay, so dear viewers, you see, there's just a lot about plastics. Like, okay, well, sometimes the way Dr. Ken is talking about it, it makes you to not get scared
Yeah,
of
you need to get
plastics
scared, man.
because
You need to get scared.
of the havoc it seems to
Yeah.
be causing.
You know.
Yes, a lot of ills that it's actually
Hmm.
resulting to.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot. Please, once again, if you know that you've not called up someone, I know that you're already benefiting from this right now. So call up someone, share this link with someone, and I know that we'll have a lot of questions because this is not a regular topic. So
Plastics.
keep those questions
Yeah.
coming, and we'll definitely attend to them. Okay, so we are talking about plastic and
Oh,
fertility.
sure.
So maybe you should narrow it down to its major impact on fertility
Hmm.
for the man, for the woman. Yeah,
Oh, let's
fertility.
look at the man.
Okay.
You know, so men consume plastics like
Hmm.
every other human being. Plastics in water.
Hmm.
Sometimes you don't even know. You may be drinking the water with a
Yes.
glass cup,
True.
with a ceramic cup.
Hmm.
But then there may be plastic, micro nanoplastic chippings in the water you're drinking, depending on where you
Yeah.
get the water from. So
Hmm.
you're drinking with the right material, but
But
where the water
water is
came from
contaminated
has already been
already.
contaminated with plastics.
Wow.
And plastics don't get degraded easily.
Hmm.
They don't get degraded. They're not
Easily broken down by the
they're not
body.
biodegradable.
Hmm.
So they're not broken down.
Wow.
They can only change from one form
To
to one
another.
harmful form to
To
another harmful
another.
harmful
Wow.
form, and
Hmm.
then you don't know you're consuming them.
Wow.
So when you consume them, for instance, now plastics have, with the chemicals we mentioned, the
Yes.
phenols, the phthalates, and all the things, they are endocrine destructor factors.
Hmm.
And endocrine disruptor factors are just factors that mimic the hormones and endocrine system in the human body. So they confuse the body
Hmm.
and sandwich themselves in the biological or physiological process
Wow.
of body responses to development of hormones.
Hmm.
For instance, for the man, This cause alteration in the follicle stimulating hormone, the luteinizing hormone, and the estrogen. These are hormones that controls reproduction,
Okay.
and all of these, and testosterone.
Hmm.
Estrogen is increased with
Wow.
plastic, but the other three, testosterone, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, all
Yes.
are reduced. And all of this
Wow.
affects sperm production. They affect sperm production.
Hmm.
And when they affect sperm production, it means there's already problem with reproduction. But more importantly, the nano and microplastics, what they do is that they increase the DNA fragmentation of the sperms.
Hmm.
The sperm has a head. Now, the head of the sperm is where the reproductive genetic materials really are,
Oh wow.
and then you may have more millions of sperms, but with excessive exposure to plastics, the DNAs in the head of the sperm may be damaged, and so the sperms become incapacitated. I
Hmm.
mean, unable to make you achieve pregnancy so
Pregnancy.
easily. And then when pregnancy are achieved sometime, you could have problems with the pregnancy because now the DNA is fragmented, genetic materials are abnormal. The rate
Hmm.
of aneuploidy, for those who understand what that is,
Yeah.
abnormality with the embryos, with the, let me use the word zygotes,
Hmm.
can be higher, and
Wow.
then miscarriages
Hmm.
could happen. So now, DFI, called the DNA fragmentation index, is higher because
Wow.
of plastics.
Hmm.
Now, I mentioned earlier, I know we do IVF as a fertility specialist. One of my sub works is assisted reproduction technology. Many times you have men with lot of sperms.
Hmm.
Of course, a lot of other times men with poor sperms. So you could have lots of sperms, but if you have increased plastic consumption, you have increased DNA fragmentation. The
Hmm.
sperms may look physically okay, physically normal, but genetically they may not be normal. So
No more.
pregnancy, it's going to be very elusive. And then somebody asks, you say the sperms are fine, the eggs are fine. How come pregnancy is not
Pregnancy is not
happening?
happening.
You have a lot of DNA fragmentation, probably
Hmm.
because of plastics, and other chemicals too,
Hmm.
And so pregnancy becomes very elusive. And now I'll take you through before the Industrial Revolution, 1940, for instance, in
Okay.
this region of the world,
Hmm.
according to WHO, the sperm count that was accepted to be normal was 113 million sperm cells per mil.
Wow.
That's to say, at that point, people could have over 113 million sperms per mil. And
Wow.
I remember our lifestyle then, I mean, with our grandparents, we had no plastic wares.
Hmm. Wow.
Then our water sources, waters are stored in a clay pots.
Hmm. That's right.
Then some people cook in clay pots,
It's true.
or in some form of metallic pot or something,
Yeah.
you know. Then the cups, either wooden cups or ceramic
It's
mugs.
true.
You understand?
Yeah.
Then sperms were of great qualities then.
Quality. Hmm.
Then at the advent of industrialization, 1990, for those of us in this part of the world, now WHO changed the
Standard.
standard from 113 per mil to 66
Hmm.
66 million per mil.
That was
That
drastic.
is drastic by
Yeah.
50%.
Yes.
That means what was normal is no longer normal. We have a new normal.
Hmm.
Now, in 2010, WHO also changed the count of the sperms again
Wow.
from 66 million per mil to 15 million. This is like a four times
Oh,
reduction
wow. Wow.
in what is accepted to be normal.
How deteriorated so fast.
Exactly.
Oh wow.
Deteriorated so fast to 15 million or 16 million per mil and above
Wow.
to be normal, together with all the morphological abnormalities that
Hmm.
could be associated. You see that sperms are going through a period of attrition.
Yeah.
And now it's not only plastic that affects sperms.
Hmm.
Now, stress, increase oxidative radicals in the body, and the kind of diet, and of course, the gadgets we carry with all the waves and radiation we're exposed to, also worsen sperm condition. And we are actually projecting to the future where there will be no good characteristics on the Y chromosome to enhance the development or conception of male kids, male babies. And so we're not looking at a very good future.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's not good
Wow.
because the projection is. So this is what plastic does. It makes the sperms poor. It makes conception difficult, and it takes out the sperm.
Wow.
Not just plastic, now other things. And these things in the body don't get degraded. And now it's very tricky. Now, these chemicals in plastics, the phenols and the phthalate and the others, are not just in plastics, they are in other materials too, like the perfumeries, the cosmetics. Yes.
Wow.
And that is why a lot of cosmetics have endocrine disruptor factors. The phenols are in cosmetics. The
Wow.
phthalate may also be in some cosmetics. And that is why the recommendation, I'm not a cosmetologist, is that what they call them? Those who do cosmetics, you
The
know.
aesthetic people.
So I'm not in that. I don't know much about that. But
Estheticians.
yes, some of the chemicals in cosmetics have similarities with what you have in plastics. And so they also affect reproduction for male negatively. So reproduction is only beautiful when you have less endocrine destructor factors. And then the natural product of cosmetics, the natural perfumeries and all of that don't have these chemicals in
And
them.
then,
And that is why, for reproductive purposes, we recommend, if you have to be on the perfumery side, use perfumes. The naturals are better because most of the product in the natural could be degraded by the body, and then you're safer using them. And by the way, we just talked about sperm. Can I deviate a little?
okay.
These endocrine disruptor factors are not all about sperms only. They can affect the thyroid hormones and
Wow.
cause a whole lot of problems for the body. They can affect the pancreas, for instance, and cause abnormalities with sugar control, diabetes.
Wow.
Exactly. We're just selecting the fertility,
Yeah,
and that is what we're
exactly.
looking at sperms. So uh, now with that, it affects even the health of the babies.
Yeah.
Plastics affect health of the babies that are unborn. Yes,
Wow.
affect health of the babies that are unborn. I guess when we get to talk about the women, we
Yes,
could
we'll
talk
talk
more
about
about
that.
that.
Okay, so Princess, I have seen your question. It's well noted, and we'll take that question. It's not related to this right now, but we'll take the question before the end of this chat. So just stay tuned. We'll definitely come to your question. Okay, so he has spoken a lot about the men. Please, if you have a brother or a friend or a husband, just make sure if they are not connected right now, make sure you connect them,
Mm,
or you send the link to them, or you could send the upload later, but just make sure that whichever way they have to see this and watch and listen, so they are able to get this new information and act on it, because it's not just to listen but also to act.
mhm.
So let's come to the women. Okay, so plastic and women, the impact on the fertility of the woman. I know say woman their wahala no dey finish.
No, they finish. I then carry wahala come. It's only fair for their
So
own not to finish. I'm just kidding, by the way. Oh my god.
and she shall be called woman.
Oh dear.
Okay, yeah. So
But
so
let me ask you a question.
mm.
If for some reasons you have a chance of being recreated or rebirth,
So why do I feel like I
wait,
knew
wait,
you
wait,
were going
wait.
to ask
Oh,
this question?
I don't know. You brought it up. Would you have chosen to be a woman or a man? Just be sincere. Just be very sincere.
Well, yeah, if I
Knowing that
it's
you can
both
easily
ways.
be a millionaire if you're a man. Because the hustle no get part two.
Well, I'm not. I'm not sure which I would want to, because I feel there are pros and cons to both the woman's life and the man's life. So I think if I had a choice, I would say I want to be both.
It means you're not satisfied being a woman. At least you've answered the question. Let's go to your next question.
Okay.
I choose to be a man over and over again.
Okay. So let's get back to women.
Okay.
Impact of plastics on the woman's fertility, or the woman as a whole.
Yes. Recently, the head of the head of embryology in my organization
Mm.
sent me a research paper.
Okay.
You know, it was very scary
Hmm.
what I saw in the research paper.
Hmm.
Scientists in the European Society found out that there were chippings, microplastics
Hmm.
in the follicular fluid
Wow.
surrounding the eggs. Eggs are the ovum. Our work as IVF specialists sometimes had to do with retrieval of oocyte of the female eggs from the ovaries.
Yeah.
And then the eggs is surrounded by fluid. So we aspirate the eggs, the oocyte or the ovum, whatever name is
Yeah.
is known to you, and then we suck it off with the fluids around them.
Yeah.
Okay, then we send it to the laboratory for the embryologist to analyze, see the quality of the eggs, whether they are good or not before fertilization and embryo transfer, and all of that is done. So now, in the dish where the eggs were aspirated into, you
Yes.
know, was analyzed, and microplastics were
Hmm.
discovered
Oh
in
my
them.
goodness.
And then, if it was from some African countries, for instance, I would have said no, Africans are come again.
Hmm.
But this is not Africa.
Wow.
Yes, from the European nations.
So can
And
you?
now the
Wow.
fluid with the eggs, the female eggs, had plastics around it.
Hmm.
So now, if you know what the eggs looks like, for instance, the egg is surrounded by cumulus ophorus cells that look like the moon
Okay.
with all the debris around the moon. Now,
Yeah.
imagine that those cells have plastic chippings coating them.
Hmm.
How dangerous or how
Can that
bad that
be?
is.
Yeah.
I know we don't look for all of this.
Hmm.
So it's possible also that we've been aspirating oocytes with
Yes.
follicular fluid having lot of deposits of plastics.
Hmm.
I told you that plastics are in the aerosols, the air we breathe.
Hmm.
If you have fire burning in a lot of places, tires being burned, plastic materials being burned, the chemicals, debris, and all of that could have plastic deposits in them.
Hmm.
And because we inhale them, I don't know, they may find a way into the bloodstreams. And now, how did they get there? I don't know.
Wow.
It sounds like some form of voodoo, but they're just
Wow.
there. So, what does this mean? It has impact already on the reproduction of women. And all I know is that we consume more plastics in Africa
Hmm.
than in the European society. You know, I checked into my room in Barcelona just a week or two ago, and then I just went straight to the fridge, opened the fridge. There were complimentary water in the
Okay.
fridge, and as soon as I handled it, it was glassware.
Oh,
I
wow.
say, okay,
Hmm.
they're telling me something. I look at the cup that were kept, the cups.
Yes.
They were glasswares. I said, this is
Wow.
beautiful. They are
Hmm.
protecting the environment and are protecting the humans. I
Humans.
was
Okay.
in a hotel in Nairobi, 2022. I went to the gym, and I saw a big caption where they kept the waters. They made apologies. Sorry, we do not use plastic materials
Hmm.
to dispense water, but we have provided glasswares,
Wow.
for water dispensing.
Hmm.
Be careful with the glasswares so you don't
Oh, wow.
sustain injuries.
Hmm.
I was happy.
Wow.
The world is changing.
Yeah.
They are aware of the detrimental effects of plastics. You understand? And so plastics in women, for instance, cause hormone imbalance.
Hmm.
Now, as a gynecologist and as a reproductive medicine specialist,
Yeah.
I've heard women casually use the word, I've been diagnosed with hormonal imbalance. I've
Hmm.
been diagnosed with hormonal imbalance. Everywhere hormonal imbalance. Something hormonal imbalance.
Oh
I was
my
like, oh
god.
man, it seems there's something about this hormonal imbalance that I
Hmm.
do not know. But it's good to mention at this point that plastics cause abnormalities with the hormone. I don't want to
Hormones.
use the word hormonal imbalance because there's so many things in physiology that can cause hormone
Hormone
imbalance. The
imbalance.
polycystic
Yes.
ovaries, the
Hmm.
Cushing syndromes, and all these can cause hormone imbalance. Okay, but
Balance.
plastic also causes hormone. And when there is hormone imbalance, it's very clear a woman will not ovulate properly,
Hmm.
or she has a dysfunctional ovulation. And because ovulation is dysfunctional, the quality of egg will be poor
Oh.
or pregnancy will soon happen,
Hmm.
be higher, and all
Mm.
of that. And now that we're beginning to find microplastics in the fluids around the eggs, it means also that the quality of eggs are going to be poor.
Poor.
And the chances of getting pregnant with those eggs are going to be poor. And the chances of having negative
Abnormalities.
outcome of
Mm.
pregnancy is going to be very high. And then plastic consumption, even during pregnancy, has been associated with abnormal babies.
Wow. Oh.
And then back to the documentary I told you about
Yeah.
in the BBC, it was linked. Although scientific papers are not too much talking about this, but it was linked with autism. When I
Hmm.
was a child
Wow.
or growing up as a young individual,
Yeah.
I don't think autism was rampant,
Hmm.
if at all there was. But you hardly look around the surrounding today without seeing an autistic baby.
Baby. So
What has
common.
gone wrong?
Hmm.
It's a lifestyle, industrialization, civilization, or
Hi.
all of these abnormalities. So this is what plastic can cause.
Wow.
Cause children abnormality, babies abnormality, poor eggs, poor pregnancy outcomes, and all of that.
Wow.
And so if one is considering pregnancy or having challenges with pregnancy and you want to enhance your chances of succeeding with fertility treatment, it's going to be good to avoid these materials to a large extent, and not just for pregnancy, for your health as an individual. It's
Wow.
going to be good to avoid them. And no wonder countries that know what they're doing
Hmm.
invest a lot in clearing plastics from the surrounding.
Okay, so Justina Onubi said, "Well done to you, Dr. Ken." In her words, she said, "Well done, my guru." Oh yeah.
Thanks, Justina.
Okay, so yeah, I was going to ask about the impact on pregnancy, but I think you also
Hmm.
addressed that
Yeah.
while talking about the impact on the woman's fertility. So you see, there's just a lot about plastic, and I'm sure it's never ending.
No, it doesn't end.
It's never ending.
It
So
doesn't end.
so before we take those questions from Princess, what would be your counsel? Now you've told them the harm and all that the plastics could do. What would be your counsel to viewers or to the general populace with regards use of plastics and how they should just go about life in general? Because you're practically surrounded with plastics, you know.
Yes, I think my advice is there should be some civil awareness
Mm,
about plastics, and the civil society should work on taking some good stance about plastics,
plastics.
and those in public health uh, specialists in public health,
Yeah.
should do well to advise people more about the dangers of plastics, and make healthy choices where the choices need to be made. There's some kind of food cooked in Nigeria, for instance, where
Mm,
you wrap them in polythene bags. You
mm,
wrap the food in polythene bags, and you go to most eateries. Eateries all have plastic plates,
yeah.
microwave the food in the plastics,
Plastic.
and
It's
then they give you
true.
poison to eat, and you
Mm.
enjoy the
Oh
food,
my
and
goodness.
and praise the eateries.
Wow.
I think those should kind of change just for the health of the public. And this not to say that those who consume plastic can't have babies. That's not what we're
Mm.
saying.
Yeah.
But then it's not healthy. It's not
Mm.
healthy. So let's toe the examples set by the Western world and some African nations, to begin to live healthy by avoiding as much as possible plastics. And then if there are plastics that are safe, those who are specialists in chemical engineering or material engineers
Yeah.
should tell us the plastics that are safe without those harmful chemicals, if there
Mm.
are.
Yeah.
And so we don't make generalized statements about the harmful
About
nature
it.
of plastics,
Mm.
but definitely plastics are very harmful.
Okay.
Yeah, very harmful.
So, dear food vendors, because a lot of I think when it comes to the eateries, restaurants, and all, we will have a lot of victims. You go to buy something, and then you say, "Okay, I need a takeaway," and it's a plastic.
Exactly. It's
You're
plastic.
dispensing. So you guys should work on rebranding your takeaways
Uh-huh.
so that we don't have to do plastics all the
Yeah.
time. Yes. So okay, so let's take Princess's question. It's out of the topic, but she's asking, what's the cause of milk coming out from the breast? So maybe I will take it. She's just saying what could be the cause of maybe any fluid or something coming out from the breast. It might not necessarily be milk, but then
Yeah, it's that's she's talking about having a breast discharge,
yes,
milk,
exactly.
probably milky breast discharge.
Mm-mm.
Usually, you have that when you have some abnormalities with the hormones.
Okay.
Maybe plastic caused that too.
Hmm.
It's possible, but then from what has been established, when you have elevated prolactin,
Yeah.
elevated prolactin could cause milk to be coming out of the breast,
Oh wow.
and then causes of elevated prolactin could be micro growths in the brain, we'll call microadenoma in the pituitary,
Okay. Hmm.
could cause prolactin to be very high, and that can be very notorious,
Hmm.
and sometimes it can be treated with medications, and some other times with some form of neurosurgeries, depending on what approach the neurosurgery wants to take.
Hmm.
Then polycystic ovaries sometimes
Wow.
associated with elevated prolactin, and that
Prolactin.
can give you breast discharge. Then sometimes the problem could be local, like mammary ductal ectasia.
Okay.
Oh, glad I'm able to remember this thing. I did it when I was in 400 level
Oh yes.
medical
So
school.
you're a
Mammary
guru.
ductal ectasia, when you have dilated lobules
Okay.
around the nipples, so they are just excessive growths around there. It could make you have a lot of discharge, both bloody
Hmm.
and milky discharge,
Discharge. Hmm.
So, but very unlikely things that could cause that could be excessive stress and a lot of
Hmm.
nipple stimulation,
Oh,
whatever
okay.
caused the nipple stimulation.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Princess, hope this answers your question. But then, I think if you're asking this question for
But
someone,
on a
or
rare,
you,
on rare occasions, cancers can cause that.
oh
But that's
wow,
not to scare whoever is asking. Yeah,
asking.
yeah.
So
But
just
for
in
cancer,
case.
it could be a mixture of bloody, milky discharge,
Oh wow.
breast cancer,
Mm.
or breast lumps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Princess, hope this answers your question. If you're the person, if like, okay, maybe if you are the victim here or you're asking for someone, we think either you or the person should probably see
You need to
a
see a gynecologist
gynecologist.
and and a neurosurgeon,
Mm.
depending on the level of the abnormalities.
Mad.
A gynecologist could be sought for here. A general surgeon could be sought for. Then a neurosurgeon could be
Mm.
sought for.
Yeah. So that you're also able to get attention and whatever it is could be dealt with. So thank you so much, dear viewers. Yes, I see all of you. The list is actually endless. I don't even know where to start mentioning. But then if I'm not able to exhaust what I have on my list, please just know you're all important. I can see you, Vera. Thank you for joining. Justina, yes, regular follower. Thank you for joining. Sabina, a regular follower too.
Which
Thank
Sabina
you.
is that? Is that the one I know?
Lupios. Well, the surname doesn't ring a bell, so I
Okay.
wouldn't know. We're just glad you joined, and we acknowledge all of you, Juliet. I'll just call randomly, so because I can't exhaust my Timang, Inkiru, Khadija. Yes, Khadija. Thank you. Khadija is a regular one too. Nambam, yes, I see you. Thank you for joining. Juliet, I see you. Princess Choma, yeah, I asked the question. Thank you for joining. Victor, Victoria Opata. Oh yeah, thank you for joining.
I know
Radik,
that.
yeah, thank you for joining. Radik Dixon and many more. Batsure, Debbie, and all of you that have joined. Naomi, Paul, we see all of you, and we are so glad on behalf of House Hospital. We are
All of
saying
them that
thank you.
join should stop using plastics.
Oh, wait. Oh yeah.
Stop using plastics or
Yeah.
reduce usage
Piece
of
of
plastics
plastic.
and
Yeah.
dispose the plastics in a very healthy way. I think that's one problem with Africa. Sorry, I'm cutting your show. I'm leading your show on.
No, no, no.
You watch people just drink water in plastics and discard the plastics on the road, and
Mm.
some just do the plastic things and throw them in water bodies. I think plastic disposal should be controlled and probably work on recycling them and having healthy disposal. But we shouldn't dispose them into the water body, because the fish and all the water animals will eat these plastics, and
Mm.
then they'll come back to us. And then we'll
Exactly.
have problem with plastic even when we do not
Not
consume
in
the plastics
plastics.
directly, because they don't get degraded even in animals. When we consume the animals, we
Okay.
become those who consume the plastic. So let's do things right in the society.
So those parents that give plastic spoons to their children because they feel like giving them stainless spoon or ceramic would burn them because the food is hot. Please stop it.
Hell yeah, they
Oh
should stop
yes.
it.
Oh, because that's another way that they could use plastic, and they are just small. They never know,
They
and you
don't
never
know.
know
Yeah.
what you're building ahead of time. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's been a very interesting show. I actually personally enjoyed the show. Thank you, Dr. Ken. It's always good to have you. Thank you for staying tuned, dear viewers. I know you had a good time. We look forward to seeing you on our next live session. Please kindly drop your questions, your thoughts, your comments, whatsoever it is you'd want us to address. Please send a message to the number being displayed on the screen. You could chat us via WhatsApp, so you could also get attention beyond the attention you get from this live session, as well as you could also book an online consultation. Still chat the number on the screen for further information. Thank you once again, dear viewers. Have a lovely evening. Bye.